Okay, I'm going to hand the call over to Dr. Ian Cooper. Thank you all for joining us. Let me make him the host now.
All right. So hello, my name is Ian Cooper, and I'm here to talk to you today about solar cells. Solar cells are devices that collect energy from sunlight and convert them into electricity or other things like that. And so thank you for joining me today. I'm going to share with you a presentation that covers why we care about solar cells, how the sun works to produce the power that we need, how a solar cell works, and also how a solar cell is made. So there was one question that this previous video that we just watched, which is called The Sun Song by They Might Be Giants. It talks about the sun and how it makes light and how far away it is, but it doesn't say how long it takes light to get to Earth. And I'll answer that question now before I start. So the sun is very far away, inconceivably far away, 93 million miles away, and it takes 8 minutes for the sunlight to get to Earth. Now that sounds like probably not much time, or maybe a lot of time, because light travels super duper duper fast. Yet it still takes 8 minutes for that light to get to Earth. So just imagine, anytime that you acknowledge the sun in the sky, you're actually looking at it 8 minutes ago. It's kind of mind-blowing, isn't it? Anyways, so the sun produces visible light, it produces invisible light, and solar cells use the visible part to produce power. So I'm going to proceed now with some of my slides. And if you have any questions, I don't know whether I'll be able to answer them here, but you can certainly forward them on to me and I'll answer them as I can. So maybe I'll go to presentation mode. There we go. So why do we care about solar? So in this world, we use lots of different types of energy, from fossil fuels like gasoline or oil, from wind. You might see wind turbines on mountainsides sometimes turning. Those are generating electricity. We also get it from heat that comes out of the ground, also from water flowing through dams. Sometimes that can produce power, but the sun can also give us power. And if you think about it, the sun is free. We don't have to drill it out of the ground and spend money getting it to our houses. It just shines on us all the time. And so if we can harness it, there's a lot of power available from the sun. And so this is just a diagram showing sunlight shines on solar cells, producing power that can be put into the grid, or it can be used in your home. It can charge batteries. It can do lots of different things. And so even though the sun is this immense amount of energy, it doesn't shine every hour of every day. We do have nighttime. And so you might say to yourself, how can we, I'm saying I have to admit attendees apparently. Hang on. Admit all. There we go. So I just admitted a bunch of people. I apologize if you were waiting. I hope that worked. And we are covering solar power. My name is Ian Cooper, just to recap. Maybe I'll take this opportunity, since we just got a bunch of people in, to tell you about myself. I have degrees in chemistry, and I studied photosynthesis for a while, and then I switched to solar, and I've done solar manufacturing R&D and solar cell production for about 10 years. And I'm going to talk with you about solar cells. So here we're talking about why we care about the sun. The sun will produce power if we put devices under it. And we can generate that power by day and maybe sell it back to the grid at night if we have a battery pack. But certainly the sun is very useful. A bit more. Wow, there's more and more people coming. Let me see if I could admit more participants. I don't see how to do that. Hang on. Manage participants. Yes, I am the one in control. I must find a way to admit the participants. I don't see how. I feel like I did admit all the participants that I can. So I'll see if anything pops up to allow me to do more. If I don't, so now I shall move on to my next slide. So a startling fact about solar power is in 1 hour of sunlight, there's enough electricity, there's enough power to run the earth for an entire year. Let me say that one more time. In 1 hour of sunlight, there is enough energy to power the earth for the entire year. I think that's pretty amazing. If you can imagine what I'm saying, if we could cover the earth completely with solar panels for 1 hour out of the year, we would collect enough power to run the earth for that year. Now, obviously, that's not practical. And also, we can't harvest all the energy that we see coming down to the earth. A more practical application could be in this little map I show you on the bottom of my slide. This is a map of the United States. You can kind of see all the lines showing the borders of the states. And the colors that you see correspond to the amount of sunlight that the regions of the country get. Now, in these different regions, say up here in Maine, there's not a whole lot of sun, right? Maine's kind of cloudy and rainy. Also up here in Seattle, right? It's a little cloudy and rainy sometimes, so they're green. Now over here in the Midwest, there's more sun, so it gets yellow. And obviously, in the southwest part of the US, there's a big desert, right? This is Arizona and New Mexico, and it's red because they get lots of sunlight. Now, if we were able to put down 18,000 square miles of solar cells into this little region of Arizona, we could supply all the electricity needs of our country, period. That's an amazing fact to think about, right? Now, obviously, we can't just go commandeer 18,000 square miles of Arizona. Maybe the people who live there wouldn't like that very much. But it just goes to show that if we could take all that area and spread it out over the country onto rooftops and fields that aren't being used, it's possible to use solar power to generate much of our energy needs. So why solar? Let's talk a bit about some advantages of solar energy and solar cells. So as I mentioned before, the sun is free. The government has not figured out a way to tax the sun yet. Hopefully they won't. And it's essentially unlimited. As far as we know, the sun will be around for a very long time, probably much longer than we'll be alive. And certainly sunlight is not localized. And what does that mean? In some parts of the world, there's more energy than others. For instance, in the Middle Eastern countries like Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and those countries, there's a lot of oil, right? And they try to pull that oil out of the ground. That's a localized source of power, right? That oil has to come out of the ground and then it has to be shipped all over the world. But the sun shines everywhere at every time. Maybe there's clouds sometimes that might block the sunshine, but it's not localized. Now let's talk a bit about solar cells. What solar cells do is they convert sunlight into electricity directly. There's no escalating fuel cost problem, right? The sun is the fuel. Sunlight is the fuel. Now, when you make a solar cell, after it's made, it does not produce pollution. Now, when you're making a solar cell, it does produce a bit of pollution, but after that, once the solar cell is made, it can last for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And during that time of operation, there's no pollution. Also, there's no greenhouse gas made after it's manufactured. But again, making solar cells is not the cleanest thing in the world, but once it's made, it's very clean.